Hey, good morning. This is Joe Malone, and I am super excited to introduce you to my guest this morning. He's going to be in Mason City 1 week from tonight, part of the I Love the 90s tour. Ladies and gentlemen, Young MC. Good morning. Thanks
How
for
you
being
doing?
here.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
All right, so where are you checking in at? Are you at home, or is this a sweet spot on the road?
Well, okay, take you in behind the curtain, and sorry for the glare behind me. But I'm in an Airbnb right now. Me and my wife are having work done on the house,
Okay.
so it's quite extensive, floors and all that other stuff. So normally I would be in my studio, have my records, and have a nice setup background behind me. But for the next few weeks, I'm here. We've been here almost 2 months already. So
Okay. Well,
yeah,
congratulations. Forgive me if I get too personal, but I was doing a little reading up, catching up on you.
sure.
You just got married back in
Yeah, in
March.
March. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And married
Well,
life is happy wife, happy life.
yeah, yeah. Happy wife, happy life. And also, you realize that when you have famous friends and friends in media and whatever, it's like having a little wedding that nobody hears about
Not going to
is
happen.
not going to happen. Yeah, I literally was it TMZ? Either TMZ or one of the sites kind of hijacked a video for one of my guests and
Oh,
then and put it up and because Montel Jordan did the ceremony, Tone
that's
Loc was
cool.
there, Rob Bass was there, Freedom Williams was there, all the members of All for One were there, many big people in radio and TV here in Arizona. But those are my friends, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
I don't really see that as like inviting a bunch of famous people. It's just inviting my friends.
Yeah.
So
You just got
yeah.
cool friends. Everybody wants cool friends.
Exactly. You try to after all this time, you're trying to have cool friends. Exactly.
Well, so let's talk about the I Love the 90s tour, touring in general for you. How's that been going this year? Have you been busy?
In all fairness, it's been less busy than last year. But I think what it is that people kind of overreacted coming out of COVID. So some of that bled over into 2023, and then in 2024, some people were, a lot of acts were trying to go back to some of the same places, and it wasn't happening. And then you see tours canceling and that kind of stuff. They're smart with this I Love the 90s tour, and that there's a lot of us on there. So even if there's one or two acts that you're not a huge fan of, the lineup as a whole will provide enough, to give a good time out.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, friends and that were at your wedding. They're on this
Yeah,
tour with you. You
yeah,
know,
yes,
is,
yes, yeah.
is it just like a
That
cool
was that
hangout session every night or what?
somewhat. I mean, it's kind of difficult. It's kind of when you're friends with somebody for that length of time, 20, 30 years, and you get in a room with them and you start talking, you bring up stories and all that other stuff. Well, for if someone were to get content from that or someone were to take notes on that, it's pretty amazing in terms of the stuff that comes out or the stuff
Mm.
that we discuss or the memories that we have. But I just look at it like an old work friend. You know what I mean? But I see touring so much. I see my work friends more than I see my friends here in town. So, is what it
Yeah,
is.
which is true, which is true. So, are there any shows that have stood out either for like it was just an awesome feel for the show or something crazy happened on this tour so far?
Um, we've been doing a lot of festivals and city events and things like that. God, I think it was called. I'm not sure if it's called Riverfest, but it was in Charleston, West Virginia, about a month and a half ago or so, and they said that another act who I won't name was there on a Wednesday, and they did approximately 5,000 people. So we were hoping because it was a 90s tour lineup, like a similar one to yours, maybe a little smaller. But so we were hoping for maybe six or maybe 8,000 because it was standing room only in the street. And then they
Okay.
had a side stage with a big screen that people that didn't want to stand, so you had a lot of older folks and people with chairs and that kind of thing. That was on the side, and they were hoping for maybe 500 or 1,000 there. That side stage alone had well over 2,000 people. The main crowd was over 15,000 people.
Oh, man.
So that's the biggest crowd that I've played in front of in a bit, especially for something like this for a 90s tour. So that was that I was moved by that. I posted it online and that's a memorable one from this year for sure.
Do you get butterflies still? Like when you hear that there's 15,000 people out there, or are you just so like a well-oiled machine that nothing's going to phase
Well,
you?
it just the difference between several, if they're pressed in tight, the difference between a few hundred and 15,000 is not that big of a deal. You can't see their eyes, you can't see their facial expressions. So it just means that they're pushed in closer together. So you try and do a lot so that all of them will feel that there's a reason, there's a good reason why they're pressed in together like that. So that's the only pressure I feel. But in terms of me doing a different show, it would be, it doesn't affect me that much.
So, by the way, I want to point out tickets are available, masoncityarena.com. That's masoncityarena.com. You can see all the info scrolling on the bottom, wherever that
You
is.
guys,
Right
yeah,
there. There we go.
you guys have a really good lineup. Like
Yeah.
it's a really solid lineup coming out. So I know for me, I either open or go second, and I'm out here pushing my new material, but I still do bust a move, and I still do some older stuff that the crowd would like. But yeah, as a fan, there's a lot of tours that go out, and people, you really have to be a fan of the headliner or a really big fan of the main act or whatever. And with this, it's like we're kind of all together, and we all, I have as big of a hit as anybody on the lineup. Usually your opener is going to have a smaller record, but I'll put Bust a Move against
Yeah.
anything else on this tour. And that's what's helped, is that you could literally be 15, 20 minutes into the show and you're hearing one of the biggest records, if not the biggest record of the show.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
You basically led right into my next question, what we can expect on Friday night. And you're saying you're getting just like the biggest hits, the stuff that we
Yes.
love from the 90s, and it's all just boom right there. There's not a lot of fluff going on.
I have been doing this tour not only for so long, but so many shows in front of so many people that it's really reinvigorated me to go back in the studio. When I started this tour, 2015, 2016, I wasn't that motivated to record again. But the call and response, and the response that I've seen from people from being on stage in front of people so much, I'm like, oh, if I had a record that did this, if I had a bass line that sounded like that, or bottom end, or EQ'd it a certain way, or mastered it a certain way, or my lyrics were made a certain way, and I built it for the stage. It's the first time in my life, 35, 40 years of rhyming, that I've thought of the stage in mind before I even make the record. And it's really turned out well. Like the song I sent to you, Loose, that was
Yeah.
something that took me 2 years to put together. And then went and got the people that did the technology and the visuals and all that other stuff. And then I have another single, Fun Part, that'll be coming out later this year, probably towards
Okay.
the fall. And I do both of them in the show. But the thing is that they perform so well, because when I was making them, I'm like, okay, if I say this rhyme here, what's the crowd going to do? What's the track going to do? I mean, I have all of that stuff in mind. Whereas before, you make the song and then you see how it turns out on stage. I had a good idea how these songs would be on stage before I even made them. So that's kind of exhilarating when I get on stage and perform them.
I have never thought of things that way, and maybe that's ignorant on my part, of writing it for the stage, because normally it's like, how does it sound in the studio? How's it sound in my car? How's it sound on the home stereo? That's
Right.
the things that you care about. Does the song sound good in the car? We're good to go.
Here's the thing, Joe. When you're spending most of your weekends in arenas and you
Yeah.
make good friends with the sound people, so shout out to Mike Blecker and Kyle Dickey. I would take my somewhat mastered song and take it to the arena, have them sound tested in the arena, and then they would show me the frequencies. Oh, 44 is a bit high. So I would literally make a note and then go back in and remaster with whatever notes I got from my sound people, arena sound people. I would go back with those notes and then do the mastering session. And we did that about 2 or 3 times.
Now,
So having that as a resource was priceless to me.
what do you enjoy the most about music and creation? Is it the writing? Is it now the producing? Is it the fine tuning? Like, what part really trips your trigger these days?
I mean, the creative process as a whole, I would say, and I'm somewhat of a unicorn. I consider myself a rapper songwriter. Like, you
Mhm.
don't really hear that term. You hear singer songwriter, you hear songwriter, or you hear rapper. But I consider myself a rapper songwriter. So I like to, it's not like I'm going to hear somebody's beat and a whole song's going to come out of me, but there'll be a hook, or there'll be a loop, or there'll be something that'll trigger like a wellspring that I can kind of build out from, build branches out from, and make the whole song. So the songs my new stuff I produced, and I produced with the stage in mind and going through all the steps. And that makes me even that much more confident when I get on stage and do them, because I'm thinking, okay, I know every step. Like if I hear a certain, ring in the song, or an instrument drop or something like that, I know the thought process that went into that. So that makes me even more confident performing.
Now, let's talk about Loose. This new
Yes, sir.
song just came out this summer, and I was reading it, and you were mentioning you spent 2 years
Yeah,
working on
and yeah. Don't get it twisted, Joe. It wasn't 2 years every day. Oh my God, what am I going to do on this song? It was more like after a few months, I thought it was done, and then I would
Oh,
hear something else. I would hear something else that let me add this to it. Let me make the bottom end, instead of just a bass line, let me make it an 808 that's melodic. The whole idea of Disco Teresa came out of Loose. That okay, let me take my label tag, my producer tag, and let me animate it fully. And what if she did a call and response, or the character did a call and response in the record? All of that was over a 2 year period that I came up with that, and then really went into the production and the writing of the song. And it's really taught me a lot, and not only in terms of just making one song, but my creative process totally. And once again, making stuff that sounds good on stage.
now, we'll get a link after this video is done. We're going to post it up on the website. We're going to get the video for Loose the Visualizer up on
Thank you.
the website for people to check out. And I mean, you got something you can be proud of. It's like here you are, from your start back in the '80s, and now you're making something that resonates here in 2024, and it's fun and it's good. It's like a song you can put on with your friends and
Right.
get loose.
Yeah. That was the idea. I was, even though I've been making music on and off, I haven't really put anything together in well over 10 years. Well, closer to 15 years that I've put together original song, going towards an album that eventually I will hopefully have now. But point being is that the idea of a quote unquote comeback song, you can be in your head, you know, 5 ways from Sunday of what should I do if people, people haven't heard me, what should I do? Um, and I feel like I accomplished it with Loose. So I'm proud of it in that respect. Absolutely.
Now, Disco Theory is your label.
It's label, yes.
Yeah. Are you just supporting yourself? Are you looking to add to the label? Like, what are you doing with the
Right
label?
now, right now it's just me. I will be bringing in other acts, but it's one. How can I put it? It's spreading myself too thin for me to bring in other acts now. I want to see how I can establish it with me, and then also how the marketplace responds to me will give me a decent idea of what type of acts to bring in and what type of songs to make. And it may be that I see that the marketplace is open for me doing whatever I want or whatever the artist wants, then it's fine. But I'm a big watcher of the marketplace, because there's a ton of music that comes out that goes away very quickly. There's a ton of music that comes out that people barely hear, that never makes the radio, barely gets any streams, never gets any likes or content. And I want to try to avoid that. I want to see what resonates with people from me, and then I'll see what I can do in terms of bringing in other acts.
Shout out to Bob. Stay loose, he says.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Trying to.
when you performed that on stage for the first time, what was that like for you?
The very first time it was still in mastering mode. So it was a little unconventional. So there was some sound things going on. But the first time that I really did it when everything was together, it was exhilarating. But the thing is that on this tour, I've been performing the same records for several years. And even if I've changed the show around, it's stuff that I've had for ages. So learning a new song, learning how to perform it, and seeing how the crowd responds and all that, it's all a learning experience. So I can be somewhat exhilarated, but I'll be more exhilarated. I was more exhilarated like the fifth or the seventh time that I did it, or the 10th time now that I'm doing it. Because I really know the song, it becomes instinctual. So for me, once the lyrics become like instinct to me, then I can really stress the performing aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
So I feel good about it now, but I'll feel better about it as as I perform it more.
So do you ever worry about forgetting your words?
Not really forgetting them as much as how can I put it? Transitions or
Oh
assuming something that happens in the second verse actually happens in the third verse, really knowing where I am. In the
yeah.
days of CD players, when some sound men would put the CD player too close to the speaker and the bass from the speaker would make the laser jump, and I
Yeah.
didn't know where I was. That kind of thing. That's when you worry about forgetting because it's not really you, but I'll be fine as long as the track is consistent behind me.
Yeah, that transition to an MP3 player, you didn't have to sweat how bad the other guy's gear was that was running sound. It's like just plug in my USB stick. We're good. We're
Yeah.
good.
And even then, you could have the greatest file, but if their system is not that great, then it's a problem. If they don't have it EQ'd right, if your stuff is mastered and their stuff isn't, so they have a certain setting to boost the bass that's really unnecessary for me, that could be a problem. So I walk around. I have a really good media player that I can do waves and AIFFs out of. So I literally can take the file. I go to the studio and I make a studio file as if it's an album with the
Mhm.
same quality level and file size of an album, and I put it directly into the player and I play the wave file.
Oh, yeah.
So that sounds better than an MP3.
Here, we're getting a little tech talk maybe for
Yes,
people, but
yes, sir.
I enjoy it,
Yeah, of course.
A couple other questions I want to ask. When you did Bust a Move, did you know that it was going to be iconic? Did you have an
No,
inkling of this song and the staying power?
it's groundbreaking. It's like somebody, it's like an explorer discovering a new land, and you ask him if he knew what that land was going to be before he gets there. I see land. I know it's something. I'm going to step on it and walk through it, but I don't really know what I'm going to find when I get there. That's how Bust a Move was. But the only advantage I had is that I had co-written Tone Loc stuff. So Wild Thing
Yeah.
and Funky Cold Medina, both of those records had done really well, and I got to see the blueprint of how to negotiate it as an artist, how to navigate it, I guess is a better word, as an artist watching Tone. So I had an idea of what the ceiling could be based on what I saw with Tone. Having said that, Bust a Move sounded different, was a different BPM, different genre, basically. Woman singing on it, all these different things. So I had to, I was caught up in the thought of would people like it, and once I found that people did like it, then I had a better shot of of getting through it. But I did not know what it was going to be. I was, every accolade that I got was a blessing with that.
So, what is it about 90s music in your mind, the music from that time period, that holds up so well? I mean, for me, it's just fun. It's got its own sound, but it's fun.
It's fun, but also not getting too technical, but the 90s was basically the last decade of true artist development. Especially when you talk about urban music, when you talk about hip hop, R&B, it became more about the sample or the producer or the guest or all these other things other than the main artist and the brilliance of a set of songs that they had to make an album. As soon as it became single driven and producer driven and sample driven and guest driven, then how special is the artist? You could almost take the main artist and replace them with anybody as long as you got the hottest producer to make the track, as long as you got you cleared a great sample, you can get anybody, and that's what it was. The I'm not going to say the record companies treated it like that, but I think the fans looked at it like that.
So, how would you define? We're halfway through the 2020s, which is crazy to say. How would you define the sound of the 2020s so far?
I have a really cynical outlook on it, and maybe this is an old man get off my lawn kind of thing, but I I say that you could take a record from 2004 and a record from 2024, and if you didn't know the specific records, you wouldn't necessarily know what song was from what time. The production techniques have not changed. Some new artists are coming out, but a lot of the stuff that's pop now was more Euro back, back in the early 2000s. Things have just kind of shifted around, but they haven't nothing's really changed the game since the turn of the century, in my opinion.
Yeah, the way you say that makes perfect sense because you think the 60s. You hear a song from the 60s, you're like,
Oh
that's the
yeah, no,
60s.
no, most definitely.
70s, 70s.
Not to cut you off, Joe. every decade from the 20s, you can hear a song and point to it and say these are the characteristics that make it a song from that decade. You get to 2000, you don't do that anymore. It's just a modern record as opposed to every decade before. That's how I look at it.
Except
And I
for
don't blame
Loose.
the artist for that. Huh?
Except for Loose. Loose is
Yeah, yeah,
clean it
sure.
up.
Yeah. Loose is the groundbreaker. Absolutely. Setting new trends. Joe said it, not me. You got it.
You can clip that, put it on a billboard. It's fine right
There you
there.
go, man.
Joe Malone says so. Got one last question for you here. And this is courtesy of Bob. Once again, thank you, Bob, for the question. Stay loose. Do you still have any of that Taco Bell money?
Um,
I'm more questioning, do you still have any of those cups from the Taco Bell commercials?
Hey, you know what? I don't think I have cups. I had cool cans, but they had soda in them up to the time. But I guess I always had a bank account that you could say that money that's gone in because I've never overdrawn my bank account. You could say the money that's gone in from there, it has been around. But that was an interesting thing because I was one of the first to do the Pepsi commercial and the Taco Bell commercial, and um I like to think that I opened some doors for other people doing them. They're making a hell of a lot more money now than I was back then. But to get a rapper doing it in 1989 and 1990 was a big deal. So that's something I'm actually quite proud of.
I had to go back and watch the commercial again because I remember it, but I had
Right.
to re-remember it. And it's like, this was a jam. Like this came on and you're like, I need a burrito. Like, even if I'm not hungry, I gotta go. Young MC's telling me to go.
Both of them, both those commercials, the Pepsi and the Taco Bell. The one good thing is that I didn't get a chance to do a lot of production on my early albums, so those commercials allowed me to actually do production under my lyrics
Oh, cool.
and make a track specifically for the commercials. And the fact that it was just 30 seconds and it was very thematic, and I had to use the bell. I knew what I found out what keyboard that the bell that they use comes from and all that other stuff. So doing all that, really, I had a lot of growth as a producer just in those two commercials.
That's crazy. Because you would
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
okay, you just gotta rewrite your lyrics like, to
Oh
fit the
no, no.
brand. You
If you
went all in.
if you listen to both of those, they were original compositions for both Pepsi and Taco Bell. And I keep saying Pepsi because Taco Bell was a Pepsi company. The Pepsi commercial had to come first, and then the Taco Bell was kind of like an add-on behind it. But the Taco Bell commercial resonated more with people because there were tons of Pepsi commercials, but there weren't as many Taco Bell commercials that really stood out like that.
That's cool. You've had quite the awesome career,
Thank you, man.
and you
Feels
keep
like it's
going.
still going.
And you keep going. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's awesome. Again, Friday night, August 23rd. You see it on the scroll down there. Tickets available, masoncityarena.com. Just click buy, get them right there, and get ready to party. It is going to be an awesome I Love the 90s night in downtown Mason City. I'm super excited to see you on stage, man.
Look, I'm excited to come. Mason City is going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big show. Every time we go out, all the places we go, it's a party. Some people stand and dance through the whole show, even though they're really not of the standing and dancing age, but they'll do it for us. So it makes me real happy to see it. And it from an artist standpoint, places like Mason City and crowds like we're going to have is what keeps me going and what keeps me doing this at this stage of my life and my career.
Young MC, it's been awesome to talk to you. Hopefully, I haven't fanboyed too hard while we were conversing, but
Great. No, we got technical, dude. I'm ecstatic. Are you kidding? We
excellent.
talked about.
Young MC, we'll see you Friday night at the Mason City Arena. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, man. Take care.